Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm Nicholas Canby. This is episode 36, and today we have a special guest in Luke Stoltman from Scotland, from across the pond. And if you guys don't know Luke, and you should know Luke, but some of his accolades include the 2021 Europe Strongest Man, the 2021 Giants Live World Tour Finals champ. He's made 3 World Strongest Man finals, and he's actually been on World's Strongest Man 7 times already, but he's also the UK log record holder at 221 kilos or 487 pounds. So Luke, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. Thank you. It's an honor to be on with you. Obviously, we had a little chat before we came on. You told me a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you don't need to tell me too much. Awesome strongman. And hopefully one day we'll be competing against each other.
Ooh, knock on wood, right? But of course, you've been a big inspiration. Of course, love what kind of watching you doing. But yeah, tell me a little bit in terms of how your shoulder's doing. I know it was a little achy coming out of the Shaw Classic. How's it training now?
It's actually today. I've actually just finished my first shoulder session. Relatively still light, still very kind of timid on how I'm training. I'll go back and so how it actually happened was in 2020 World's Strongest Man when we were doing the Fingal's Finger. So a lot of people, I tend not to kind of, back then I wasn't talking about injuries and stuff. So when we're doing the Fingal's Finger with Alexei Novikov, as I had my right hand, my shoulder just tweaked. Something just went, and I felt this. It was something in the back of the shoulder, and it was, oh geez, adrenaline kind of keeps you going, right? So I got back to the hotel room and taking off my shirt, it was like this really bad pain. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is going to be tough. The following day, we had the forward hold. So the forward hold to get into the final. So, I don't know if guys remember, our group was 5. I had Alexei, Bobby Thompson, it was myself, Kevin Fairs.
Very stacked.
So it was a crazy group, and everyone was so tight. So I'm like, right, I've got to go out with a busted shoulder and try and do this. Thankfully, it's not too bad in the forward hold position. It's the super strainatus. I forget the terminology. My terminologies, but at the back of the shoulder, I've had a little MRI scan on it, and it showed a little tear in it. So it's just trying to recover that. But obviously, as a strongman, a professional strongman, whatever that is these days, we're continually trying to train. So I was using some BPC to kind of minimize the pain as much as I could for the prep for this year. And because Tom and I, because of myself, we decided to, try for kids and stuff. I won't go into details, but obviously trying for kids, a lot more injuries were present, and with the shoulder, it's just almost impossible for me to get underneath the yoke. So my left arm, I've got the mobility, the flexibility to do that. With the right arm, to get it past my shoulder, I suppose you could say, that point of the shoulder, the rear delt, it's very painful at the moment. So with that being said, trying for some PRP. So I'm actually getting that. I was supposed to get it last week. We were down in London, but unfortunately I think it was called the needle specialist that I was going to. It's the same place as Eddie got his bicep reattached, due to the kind of things with the Queen and stuff. He couldn't make it, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But I believe in the Arnold Classic, so we're very fortunate that the blood lab, they have that treatment for me. So I'll be looking to get that ASAP, and hopefully, recover as soon as I can. So it's just one of those. You probably had it as well, Nicholas. It's like a niggle, like an annoying injury, but it just stops you from doing so much. So, like when I do full extension, like with like the bag toss, any full extension movement on my right shoulder is very painful, especially now. When the injuries are more apparent, should we say, if that makes sense.
And now, quick thing about the back toss. Of course, I saw it, and it's been kind of more popular the last recent years. It's not one of my favorite events. It's probably one of the things where I probably lose the most points. But do you enjoy the back tossing? Do you like keg tosses better, or what your thoughts on tosses in general?
Yeah, normally I'm pretty okay with them. Middle of the pack. We did the gold bullion toss a few years ago in Botswana, World's Strongest Man. That was awesome. That was real fun. So yeah, usually I'm pretty good. I'm not opposed to them, but everyone's so good now, So every strongman that we're going up against is super fast, super explosive. It's one of those events that I don't mean this with any disrespect, but the strongest doesn't always win the bag toss, if that makes sense. So maybe you've got great log pressure, great deadlifter, great in the yoke, great grip. But then, like you say, sometimes the bag toss lets you down. And for me, it's a very fun event to watch because it's like points of a second. It's really down to a stopwatch. For me personally, the likes of bag toss, forward hold, and stuff like that, I don't enjoy it because I don't feel it's as much a test of actual true strength. If that makes sense. That's just my opinion, but
I completely 100% agree. I think it's kind of one of those things is where it's the lightest thing that we use, of course, lighter than the actual front holds too. So I'm a proponent of more weight, more fun. But you were talking a little bit about the PRP. So for our listeners, that's the plasma or platelet rich plasma. And then what they do is they take tubes of your own blood, run it through a centrifuge to concentrate the platelets. These are activated platelets and then are injected directly into your body tissue. This releases the growth factors and stimulates to increase the number of reparative cells your body produces. So is this something that you've done before? Or is this pretty new for you?
This is a new thing for me. So I was speaking to Maxime Boudreau out of Brian's competition, and he's had similar issues, and he said that he got some great results with PRP injections. So it's something that I'm really looking forward to trying. Unfortunately, where we are in Scotland, we're very far north, and there's nothing really along that lines here. So hence the reason why we've got to travel. Like I went down to London. We were lucky. Well, I was down there anyway for a wedding, but unfortunately the appointment fell through. But yeah, Maxime said it was amazing what he got. I saw Brian get some for his hamstring as well. It doesn't look the most comfortable, but I mean, yeah, it's been advised from like our physio that we see, and also the blood lab, the guys that do our bloods and stuff. So they look after us. Dr. Chris, who looks after us, great guy, very, very knowledgeable. Says all these big fancy words that my brain doesn't really understand.
Now, what's the recommended kind of procedure after? Do you have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks until you start training again? Is there a little like kind of downtime after you get the injections?
I believe so, yeah. From what Maxime said, within 2 to 3 weeks, he was feeling a lot better. It was quite almost a week to 2 weeks. He was saying it was a lot better feeling. So obviously, I won't push it to. I won't be hitting 200 plus kilos in the log anytime soon. But all this is like the prep for 2023. Obviously, I'm getting older in my strongman career. I guess I'm 38 in November, but I'm still feeling exceptionally good. The injury aspect I've been very fortunate. Touch wood. So if this little kind of shoulder issue, I just need to get that sorted. So 2023 will go really well. Obviously big plans for 2023, but first and foremost, get the shoulder fixed, hopefully get my wife cushy, hopefully me and her can have a baby. That would be amazing. That's something that is a huge priority for me with family and stuff, and that would be huge. That'd be better than winning World's Strongest Man if we could be blessed with having a child.
Excellent. Now will this be number 2, or would it be this number 1?
No, this is number 1. So my sister-in-law, Cushy's sister, she's just had a little baby, Jax. So he's a cool wee guy, man. He's awesome. And you know how it is if like one of the other, like Cushy's older sister has now had a baby. It's making Cushy very, I don't know if you guys say it, like broody, like wanting a child and stuff. So we made the decision before World's Strongest Man We had a few conversations. Same with Tom and his wife Sinead. You know, we come from a family of 5 children, so it's a big family. And yeah, I would love to have a kid. You know, that's something. I know, you know, we talk about legacy and all this stuff, but you know, if I could have a baby, a little baby boy, baby girl, kind of, you know, to try and inspire as much as I could, I think that would be amazing, man.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I hope to have about 3 boys at least in one day. So.
Have you got any to show?
No, I'm getting married next year. So
Awesome,
probably
man.
after I get married, I think we're probably planning. So maybe a can be girl or boy, 2024, 2025. So I think that's
best of luck, man. Yeah.
Thank you. But you know, it's interesting. But so we were talking a little bit about kind of recovery. So of course the PRP is really pretty popular. My buddy Johnny Wasisco was big into it. First, what I heard, he was getting into his like knee injections. We had Martins on this podcast, and he talked about getting stem cells, and that was pretty interesting. I feel like that's the next step up. Of course, you can only go to where the stem cells are illegal to use, so you had to go down to Colombia, maybe Central America. So it's pretty interesting the lengths that, of course, we go through as athletes to keep our bodies in top physical condition. But I know you were mentioning that you wanted to get this PRP done so you can go and hit the world record. Is that the plan? So hopefully some point in 2023.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, that's you know, World's Strongest Man is paramount for me. Do that. Fortunately, Worlds is, you know, usually around kind of May time or so. Once that happens, then I purely want to focus on that log world record, man. That's you know, when we did it back in lockdown and COVID times and all that stuff, it was so close. You know, that 2:30 for me was we call it a ball here. You know, it was a fraction away from getting that lockout, and it's kind of haunted me ever since. So I believe that, you know, my log press is exceptional, and as well as, like, you know, like Hicksy, Iron Bibby, of course, he's just a beast. Bobby Thompson, Maxime Boudreau as well, Trey Mitchell. Fucking hell, Trey's a monster on the log now. It was amazing to see Trey press that in the Shaw Classic. But I feel, yeah, I'm very capable of getting that log press world record, and it's just something, you know, how it is in strongman, right? You set your sights on something. It's like the deadlift world record. But for me, I think the log press, it's such a technical lift. You know, there's so many components to the log. And at any stage of that, if you're not perfect at any stage of that log press, it's just not going to happen on that day. So you have to be very, very focused, very almost confident in that press. And yeah, for me to be able to press the log press world record, man, to, you know, fall in likes of, you know, obviously Iron Bibby has it, but like Big Z, you know, Big Z was just so dominant in the log. And, you know, that's something that I hopefully can kind of carry on next year when I'm back in peak shape. And, you know, the log press at the Arnold's for me on the Austrian Oak, that was an absolute dream for me come true. I didn't ever think that was in my realms of possibilities to be able to press the Austrian Oak in front of Arnold Schwarzenegger and to get the heaviest press there. It was wild.
And that was your first Arnold Classic appearance, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, man. It was wild. You know, sharing the podium with, you know, Novikov, Martins, Bobby as well. We both got joint third, which was awesome. And just being there, you know, it's such an energy, such a, you know, because we've all watched the old videos of like the Arnolds when Big Z was smashing out the hammer tire deadlift, when Big Z was pressing the log, that 205 kilo log. It's incredible. It's just a place set for like the great events, the great feats of strength, I think, happened in the Arnold Classic. So it was very humbling and very much a privilege to be there, part of it this year.
I'll say a quick thing. So when I got to spend some time with Big Z last year in Russia, and he said that in his prime he had 240 kilos in him. So 528. So I feel like that, like, of course, I believe that you can hit the record one day, but I feel like that's could potentially be the real mark. Is that
Yeah, man.
is that 240, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But you were talking about how the log is a very technical lift. I also agree. So let's do some little fun. So I'm gonna share my screen. I brought out your record, from your British record and then your world record attempt, because it just had such great angles when it comes to the actual lift. So here, I'm just gonna get everything all set up. And then if you can kind of walk us through what do you think generally in terms of your log press and everything. So I believe we have it here. So I want to say this is going to be, you guys did such a good job in terms of cutting it up. So I believe this is going to be your British record attempt.
Yeah.
Going in there. No, and we got some ads.
Oh, we got that. Got to get that ad revenue.
Hey, we're feeding the ad revenue for the Stoltmans, right? Let's see. All right. So kind of start off, when do you think about like what cues do you think about when you're lapping the log? Do you believe that you have to like stand up all the way, or do you immediately you can get it over your knees? Do you lap it right there? What do you think about that?
I usually prefer to kind of stand up fully with it. And then by doing that, then as I'm sitting down with it, if I pull it straight up into my knees, I don't think I can get as much of a dip with my glutes. I can't get them down as much. So if I kind of stand up almost to full extension and then sit down with that, I can squat down better, I feel. Again, everyone's different. I see a lot of people just, picking it straight up onto their legs, and that works great. But yeah, at the moment, I do a couple of little kind of things now before I lift. I kind of pull it, yeah, so I kind of tilt it forward, kind of give the the log a little talking to when I touch it. And then, yeah, just kind of super focused. I'm not really thinking anything. So as you can see, I'm kind of sitting up, popping down with it. So yeah, I'm trying to almost get into that hole. When we squat as well, you get into that hole and you squat. So everything's there. I'm ready to explode. And with the clean, my clean, I think is pretty, a lot of the time it feels quite effortless but I need to be, I think probably a lot of guys will be the same, probably yourself. You need to be in that aggressive kind of headspace. It's not necessarily thinking about anything, but it's just you have that aggression, you have that kind of self-belief, that power, that kind of that want to do it. And that's where I was here. I was fired up, man. It was pretty cool. And you can see, I've got a little multi-cuff on the elbow as well. I get a little bit of tendonitis in the elbow when I go quite heavy on the log, which is a bit of a pain at times. But again, when the adrenaline's going and stuff, you don't really feel anything like that.
So on the clean portion, what kind of cues do you think about? It looks like you have that pre-pinned on like your upper abdomen, like upper sternum, sternum right there.
Yeah,
now,
so
you go.
Really tuck it in. I really try and squeeze it into, like you say, that kind of upper belly, kind of lower chest. Really pop it in there, and just keep the elbows nice and high, nice and tight as well. And as I'm just about to pop up, I really try and drive my hips through as quick as I can.
Right, let's take a look. Big hips. Oh,
yeah.
Easy.
So yeah, I mean,
every time.
Yeah, I mean, it should be effortless. Do you know, like that? That's the thing. And I've tried as well. This is a quick one as well about grip shirts, and I'm not trying to down grip shirts or anything like that. But for me personally, when I'm pressing a log, I don't know about you, but I found that at Arnold's, I initially had the grip shirt on, but sometimes I need to reposition that log in the racked position. And I find with the grip shirt, I can't do that. I couldn't do that as well. So you can see, I've kind of got that log nice and high up in my chest. Elbows are nice and high. If there's another view, you'll probably see my hips are kind of going to get pushed forward a little bit. Chest is kind of trying to push towards the ceiling.
You have high elbows. You of course you're shortening that range of motion. And then what do you think normally? What do you think about on the dip? Do you? I know, of course, usually when we're using a log, that's going to sit a little more forward. So usually you're going to have to be a little more knee heavy compared to be able to kind of use your hips.
Yeah.
But what do you normally think about kind of on your dip there? What kind of cues do you?
I mean, yeah. Again, when I'm pressing, I don't really think about much. It's again, it sounds a bit daft, but you just go through those motions again because you've done it a million times over and over and over again. So again, I look to try and get as much power as I can from my legs, and I know my kind of core stability is good now. My triceps are strong. I've got big legs. I've got a big ass. I've got powerful lower body, so I need to utilize that as much as I can. I don't look for the dip, if that makes sense. You see a lot of guys looking to dip, and it kind of almost gets lost in that moment, if that makes sense. So you see Big Z press, he does a very minimal dip. Eddie, when he pressed, he was completely strict pressing. I'm quite leg dominant. I look for a lot of power in my legs, and it works for me. So it's almost finding that balance, whatever it is that works for you. But it's it's cool when you get it right. Like this was a good log press, in the build up for
Fast.
So it was that's a decent press. I was quite happy with that, as you can probably see from the celebration.
Held it up there. Maybe show Iron BB how to hold the log up there, right?
We've got a big bogey in my nose, or something, some snots in my nose, and I think I had too much pre-workout that day. That was
well, it was tough. It was a tough time in 2020. There wasn't, of course, a lot going on. You had these things to look forward to. We, like us as like kind of like the viewers, we had something to kind of look forward to. So you really had to kind of bring it. You had to bring some entertainment factor. So this is so everything that, of course, Luke just talked about. So a nice side angle. So has a nice lap, high elbows. He has that high on his chest before he stands. Throws the big hips. Big drive, and then you squeezing those, like after you drive and you have that in the air, are you really thinking about like squeezing your glutes?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, squeezing the glutes. My quads, I use my quads as well, just to bring it forward as well. Lock out the quads, make sure they're nice and tight. I get a bit of cramp sometimes in my quads if I tense them too hard. So as you can see, the pop, squeeze, pop, lock out. It was that's a nice press. Fucking hell, Simon, he's put on a bit of weight since then. That was.
I was gonna say, has your technique changed since 2 years ago, or is it pretty much kind of the same, pretty much the same rhythm?
It's pretty similar, to be honest. Since then, I took Dan, our coach. Tom had been coached by Dan for a while. See the scales here quickly. The scales that we got there, we had to buy them in, especially because the scales we had broke a few days before, and they were like, I think almost like they'd be like $400, $500 for the scales. So we had to, But so as I was saying, Dan came on, and sometimes when I'm log pressing, I'll spend a little bit longer with the log in my lap. But sometimes it's just a head thing, I don't know how. I can't really remember how this.
Of course, I think it looks like you did it twice, right? So on the 230, was it? If you had looking back at it, do you think it was just more of kind of like a horsepower thing, or was it a technique thing, or just a lot? That was a lot of emotion hitting the British record, right? And I know you're just talking about how much this plays back in your head every day.
It's really frustrating because I feel, us guys sometimes shoot our load too soon, and I think that's probably what I did in the initial attempt, the 221. I mean, again, it happened in was this the first time I did it? I think I cleaned the 230 log, or 228 log, 3 or 4 times, So, well, this one, I think that's basically what it was maybe just a little bit gassed, unfortunately, for this one. And the prep actually wasn't the best. 10 days before this, you'll see it actually when the documentary comes out. I think that'll be part of it. So this is a little bit of insight. I actually, I really, he hyperextended my left leg, and it was agony. So 10 days before, I think I went for maybe it was a 220, 221 or something like that. It wasn't. It was heavy, but I'd been hitting that week in, week out. It was quite good. But just something happened with the left leg, and it just decked me. It just completely floored me, and it just was a little bit. It was extremely worrying. There's a few things that's happened in the build up to, like the Worlds last year, the log press build up. Like just mad injuries. So that's not an excuse. The legs were fine then, but it was just a worrying time. Thankfully, again with the physio and the recovery stuff that Tom and I both do, it was okay. But I think it was just a kind of, like you say, a gas power thing, just horsepower thing, just a little bit fatigued after that absolutely ridiculous celebration.
Now, if you had to do it when you maybe next year when you get an opportunity to do it, do you think you'll do maybe let's just say 190, 210, then the record?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? That's the big question. Because a lot of people have questioned, the training for me up until the record attempt and stuff. And but I'm a great believer as well in confidence. So if I've hit a 225 log in training, then I know going into competition I'll be able to hit something big. It's just how my head works. I know, you work in percentages and stuff, and maybe you shouldn't go up to over, close to a PB. But going into the actual competition, in my head, from going from 210 kilos to 230 kilos is quite a big jump. So I don't know. It's something that I need to really work out in training and kind of do that. So for me, I think I need to maybe do 200, 215, and then maybe a 230. I think those 15 kilo jumps for me is quite a good way to be. But yeah, I'll have to try that in training. I'll have to hit the 230 in training, and then we'll see what happens. It's quite funny watching back, the log stuff, because like you say, it was a funny time. It was a strange time in the world when those at home kind of gym records were going on. It was just great to have something to focus on. That's all we had to focus on really was, the log press. And then that's probably why in 2019, when Tom came second, I didn't make the final. So I don't think I was as prepped for that because I'd been too focused on the log press. And that was a learning curve as well. It's, do you focus on world records or do you focus on being the best in the world in Strongman? So that was a learning curve for me, and a bit of a check, a reality check, I think, not making that final. So
I feel like as strength athletes, we want to get a taste of everything. We want to try to fit as much as we can and still be able to get world records and still place high. But sometimes we run into roadblocks and we got to figure out what we do for next time.
Yeah,
but of course, let's move on a little bit. So I love to see you guys in terms of your kind of recovery methods. So the hot tub, cold tub method. What's your usual regimen? Is that something you guys do twice a week, once a week? When's the most optimal time to do it? And then I'll have a couple more follow-up questions too from that.
Yes. So for me, I pretty much go do the cold water in the morning. I go out for sunrise cold water dips, and we're very fortunate. We've got the sea 15 minutes away from us. So I'll go there pretty much every morning. And it's more for the recovery of the mind, the mindset thing. I wouldn't say I struggle with mental health, but it's a battle for me. Just sometimes to get out of bed at times, and that kind of holds me accountable, and it gives me a reset. It's, and what we're doing here, it's a lot. It's quite a lot. It's quite, the business aspect, the social media, the appearance, etc., etc. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just training. So mentally, I think it's very important that we look after our mental recovery as well as the physical recovery. So that's what I do for my mental side: swimming every day in the cold water. And then for physical recovery, Tom and I usually around 7 p.m. Maybe a couple of hours before we go to bed. Trainings, we normally train early afternoon, kind of 2 o'clock or so. go back, get a couple of meals in us before we do the final recovery session. We then have a sauna. We've got a hot tub, but we're not using that as much now. They get a little bit more extreme heat in the sauna, really get hot in the sauna, do the cold tub. The cold tub gets down to 2 degrees. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's pretty cold. It's pretty chilly. So we usually sit in that anywhere between 3 to 6 minutes. And then we do another round in the sauna where we get nice and hot again, and then one more round. So we usually do minimum 2, sometimes 3 rounds. And that's pretty much, that's about 4 times a week we do that.
All right, wow.
And there's like a lot of stuff, I like the science behind things. I know the science doesn't really back up the cold, and it says it's not the best for muscle growth and all this stuff, and I understand that. But for me personally, it really aids my sleep. I sleep like a baby. It's absolutely amazing. I get like 7 to 8 hours of fully good sleep, and I think that is very important for a strength athlete. We need a good quality of sleep, and again, it just sets me up before bed. I go home to Cushy, and hopefully 90%, 99% of the time in a good mood, and I can have a good night's sleep after that. So it's more for me. It's I enjoy the mindset stuff, the kind of the mental kind of reset, and my body. I know my body can take, all our bodies can take a lot, a lot of beating and stuff, and on top of that we see kind of a health practitioner, Neil, who does a bit of chiropractic work for us, acupuncture. We then see a physio that comes up to the offices that we have up here. He's got a physio room, so we see him every week. We then get a sports massage on a Friday as well. So we're very, it takes a lot of time, as you know as well. The recovery side, if you can recover, I think Eddie says, if you can recover harder than anyone else, then you're going to be the best. We haven't got a hyperbaric chamber, and what Eddie's gone to, that's maybe a bit out of our price range at the moment. But hopefully we can. Ideally, we like to have a recovery centre up here in the town, so then we can give back to the community and help them as well. So that's the plan. But yeah, recovery is a huge thing for us.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you guys are on your way to 1 million subscribers on YouTube. So I think when you guys keep pushing, I think it'll happen. A couple things. So it was interesting. You talked about kind of ice, especially kind of after training. They say that like ice immediately after training, like within like 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes can hinder the recovery process, but it looks like you guys do past 4 hours. So I went to a Stan Efferton seminar last year, and he says icing after 4 hours is optimal. You want to let your body be able within those 4 hours after training to be able to recover naturally on your own terms. And then after 4 hours or so, that's when the best time, that's like the optimal timing that he said. And then you said, I've seen your videos that you dive into the ocean, hop into the freezing cold water. Do you hop in the sauna first, or do you just wake up, drive to there and just hop in the water? That's
how I start my day. I wake up, I put on, I'll plug it our Stoltman swim robe. I'll throw that on, drive to the beach. It's about 10 to 15 minute drive away from me. So the earliest the sun rises in Scotland in the summertime, I think it's about 4:30 in the morning. So if that's the case, I'll get up at 4, drive to the beach, be in for sunrise. And then, now at the moment it's about 6:30 in the morning, the sun rises here. So it's not too bad the time. I'm quite an early riser anyway, but I'll get a lot of like energy from that. I'm a great believer in kind of that energy's out there, so the sun rising up in the morning, you get something from it. I get a lot from it. And again, not everyone does. Not everyone has that same response to me. Tom, that's not Tom's thing. Tom doesn't come to me. He only does that maybe if there's, if we're filming with people or sponsors or whatever, he'll come along. But Tom's thing is to go to, he likes to watch his football team, Glasgow Rangers, on the weekend. That's his little reset. But for me, it's pretty important. So yeah, I just go straight in, jump in, sit in for 20 to 30 minutes, depends what I need. Sometimes I'll be laughing, sometimes I'll be crying in there, sometimes I'll get angry. I don't know. It's like a release of like emotions, if that makes sense. Yeah, I never thought when I was younger I'd be doing that because of that reason. I was maybe a bit kind of not as open-minded as I am now to that kind of alternative methods of kind of health and kind of looking after ourselves.
But it's something I guess I'll have to try. I
Please
think I
do.
can do the freezing cold water, especially after the sauna. I feel like anytime after sauna, I can really go anything in the cold, but just kind of going willy-nilly, just going fresh in the cold water. But I can see how that can be a great kind of mental reset rather than just pure physical.
Yeah,
So you were talking about your brother, Mr. Tom. Of
yeah.
course, I see you guys train, you eat, you guys support each other, do a lot on the different videos. But within training, within eating, does it ever get competitive? Are you guys trying to outdo each other? You guys like one more rep here, one more step there, one more hot dog,
Yeah.
ding there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's healthy competition, right? So, I mean, I have the great honour and privilege of training with. For me, I'm very biased, but I think Tom is one of the most gifted, if not the gifted, most gifted strongmen in the modern era. You know, Tom is it's exceptional to see Tom training, and when he switched on, yeah, Jesus, you're scary. So if I can keep up with Tom, you know, that's what I do. But like, don't get me wrong, I still try and beat him. You know, I'm trying to beat him even in stones. I'm still trying to go up against him and smash him in stones. Well, that hasn't happened in a few years. You know, I still give it, you know, 100%. And the competition, the kind of, it's almost inspiration. You know, I think we both inspire each other. And you know, with my pressing, my, you know, log press and dumbbell press is maybe not a little bit better than Tom's. Oh, Tom's a beast on pressing. He's incredible. Sometimes when he's on point in the gym, man, geez, he's special. But then, you know, when Tom's deadlifting, when he's doing the stones, I'm watching him like, right, I need to really kind of, you know, get it up, get that fucking weight smashed. And watching Tom sometimes when he's deadlifting, man, when he's on point, like, well, obviously, I don't know if you've seen, we're doing this series for Tom, the 505, Road to 505, and Tom will get that. Like, the way of Tom's mind, it's so concrete. It's like, and Tom will win 6 titles if he wants to. Like that's, and it's so, like, I know people are probably watching this. I think, well, there's a load of good guys coming in, and 100%. There's some amazing, you know, Mitchell Hooper, Trey Mitchell, Wade Pavlo, you know, all these great guys. But Tom will just, Tom will eat them for breakfast. I would bet a lot of money on Tom. Just, I mean, this year he won by 10.5 points. He doesn't have to do the stones. But yeah, going back to your original question, sorry, I diverse, I go off on a tangent. The competition, yeah, it's very much alive. And it's nice. It's a healthy competition because it drives us both to push more and more and more. Because without Tom, you know, I would be probably still that kind of, whatever, that kind of entertainer, the showman, the guy that just does it for a hobby and stuff. And without me, Tom would probably be working a security job, not knowing what strongman was. So, you know, we have that kind of that drive for each other, and I think it's such an amazing feeling training with Tom, and hopefully Tom says that about me. I don't know, maybe he doesn't.
Well, that's why it's important for that older brother to kind of pave the road for the little brother. So I'm where I am at today because my brother did such a good job paving the road when it came to football, came to wrestling in high school, just setting a mark of excellence to kind of enter in. So he was the big football player in our small high school growing up in the Northeast. He of course went to like the All-Star game and all. So when he graduated out of 12th grade, I came in as a freshman in 9th grade. So I had all these high expectations even before I set up on the field. So if he didn't pave that road, if he didn't show me that there is a way, I don't think we could get there. So it sounds like you paved the great road for Mr. Tom.
I try my best. You know, I think Tom's paving his own road now. I think he's a trailblazer in his own right now. You know, I just kind of maybe held his hand for a little while, guided him a little bit, and now he's actually flying out to New York at the moment. He's got some stuff out in America to do for SPD. Yeah, so he's going.
I'll have to keep my eye out. That's only a few hours drive from me.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm right in Boston. Yeah, so like Boston, New York, big
nice
towns. So
okay, yeah.
But I also wanted to, of course, kind of chat about. So you've been in the sport. So we were talking a little bit off air since 2012. So do you know how many number of competitions you've done? Are you somewhere in like the 30s, 40s?
Yeah, probably around the 40s or so now, I think. It's been a couple of years. It was really busy, kind of doing. I mean, I say busy, but when you compare it to like Alexia, how many competitions he does, it's ridiculous. So I'd say probably, 30, 40 competitions now. Been competing a fair amount of time. And yeah, like been doing it a while. And like I said, I'm not getting any younger. I'm under no illusions that I'm getting any younger. So I really need to make those shows count now, what I do. So like for example, in 2023, you just need to be a bit more kind of sensible of what I'm picking and trying to peak for, because yourself trying to do competition after competition after competition. I mean, last year after Worlds, I think we got back from Worlds and we did the Royal Albert Hall within like a week getting back, and like after Worlds last year, I couldn't pick up a tin of juice because my tendons were that inflamed. And then you have to go and try and do a max axle, whatever it was, at Albert Hall, and that kind of thing now, I think, is a bit detrimental to me and my career, physically and mentally. Because again, all our strongmen, we want to go in fully peaked. We want to go in trying to win these shows, and when we go into a show under prepared or under peaked, whatever the right words are, it's not good. Physically and mentally, because you can do your body a bit of damage. And I've learned that this year. Obviously, with the Shaw Classic, it was a tough one because I knew I wasn't going to be where I should be. But we made a promise to Brian. Brian kind of knew where we were at in regards of training and stuff. But it was amazing to see all the guys there compete. I mean, they were just monsters, absolute monsters. Big Trey smashing that log, man. That was one of the highlights.
Big thicket.
Yeah, he's just a superstar, man. Trey's like nothing but love for Trey, man. He's an awesome guy. Like such a genuine, kind of respectful guy. Nothing but love for him, and I just hope, I hope Trey just goes on to smash World's Strongest Man and all these shows because he's got so much potential. I love the guy, man. I think he's super entertaining.
He's on a warpath. I think he's going to do pretty well at the Rogue Invitational. I've known Trey since 2013, and every year he just gets incrementally better. So he just keeps pushing and keeps getting thicker.
Yeah,
on the podcast, he says he gains 10 pounds on average, 10 pounds a year. So he could be 400 pounds in a couple of years if he keeps that up. I think it was 380 at the Shaw Classic, he said. But back a little bit on competing. So do you, just for like talking to our audience, talking to some of our amateur strongman, do you place a high importance on competing? Like, should someone starting out or trying to get their name out there, should they compete often? And what would Luke Stoltman suggest? How often they should compete?
I think, you learn a lot about yourself when you're competing. So even if you come last in the competition, you're going to learn something. So the only way to, I talk a lot about kind of like playing soccer, playing football. You need to become match fit. So the only way you become match fit is by playing matches. So our match is our strongman competition. So from an amateur strongman, from a guy or girl starting out, do as many competitions as your body will allow you. Do that. It's like almost a rite of passage. Doing those shows day in or week in, week out, competing in all these. My first few competitions were in car parks. With the big potholes in them. You're trying to, run around them with the yoke and stuff. But I think that building up that kind of resilience in your head, knowing that's where you've come from. I still go back to that first car park where I competed, and I just kind of reminisce sometimes, so it's building up that resilience. And I think the only way you can probably do that is by doing these shows and just, not expecting to get invited to World's Strongest Man straight away. You've got to, or World's Strongest Woman, you've got to kind of do your time, do your apprenticeship, whatever that is, so that's certainly how I felt initially. I mean, I think at the time when I did 2012, 2013, Then there was a space open up for Britain's Strongest Man, Giants Live. I think it was in Gateshead, which is around Newcastle. And that was absolutely overwhelming. Jesus, that was like, I remember doing that. It was a 440 kilo yoke, I think it was. And I'd never picked up a yoke. I didn't know how to move with the yoke. I was training with a Swiss bar for doing our log press. We had one Atlas stone, and it had like a bit cut out, so it was like 3/4 of a stone. And that was it. I didn't have anything else. It was a very basic, like I say, up in the area where we stay. There was no one else doing strongman. It's like there's bodybuilding, there was maybe a bit of powerlifting. So then going into the Giants Live show, the first show, it was like, oh my God, this is insane. This is like, what am I supposed to do with the yoke? I didn't even know about yoke heights. The guy's like, look, you need to go and get your yoke height. I'm like, what? Like, what's that? And it's like, obviously trying to determine where you put the yoke. The log press I had, like, I don't know if you have them out in the States, but it's Adidas Sambas that we used to play indoor football with. And they were all loose. And, I didn't know. I literally no idea. I'd only lifted one Atlas stone previously before that. And that was a huge learning curve. It was like, right, what am I going to do? Am I wanting to pursue this as something more than just a hobby, or or am I going to invest in this? And we decided. Fortunately, I was working away at the time, had a decent job, and then decided to invest some money into buying equipment. So we bought stones and log press, yoke, and just kept kind of chipping away. And in reality, it's only been the last 2 or 3 years that started to kind of peak, I guess, in terms of strongman. So it's been a bit of a slog, those first 7 years, 8 years, whatever. It wasn't good. It was tough, finishing in the lower half of the group and kind of just fucking about a lot of the time as well. It was tough.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, that was a great answer. Of course, a lot of insights. And I say the same thing too. You got starting out, you got to compete as often as you can, because you realize that you need to train a certain way that's conducive to competing, and then competing is only going to increase that and make you better. So we kind of talked a little bit. So we talked a little bit about the Honor Classic. There's the Shaw Classic. There's the Merv Magnuson Classic. There's the Savickas Classic. When's the Stoltman Classic coming to town?
Yeah, well, that's something I've been talking about it for a little while. It would blow my mind to have that. We're very fortunate up here. The local community are just like absolutely amazing to us, and they support us so much, and it's very humbling. So what I would love, so we used to have the Highland Games. We used to have a Highland Games every year up here in our town in Invergordon. So it used to be the last week in August. So I've got a bit of a hard on for having it over here, So I want to have the Stoltman show, Stoltman Classic, Stoltman Games, whatever we call it. So the plan would be, if we could, align it with every other competition. Obviously, there's a lot of competitions. Have it in that last weekend in August. Have the guys, like, we'd have, I don't know if we'd do maybe heavyweights initially, kind of similar how Brian, did it, the Shaw Classic. So again, Brian's like the perfect blueprint for anything that we want to do in strongman. He's just nailing it. So invite the guys over. So we'd have a Highland Games feel to it. We'd have the Highland Games, maybe do a heavyweight Highland Games the following day. So Saturday strongman, Sunday the Highland Games, and really put on a show. I want, like Brian wants to, give the guys the biggest paychecks and stuff. And I don't want to put on a show until we can do that, So we're talking, like, I want to be able to, Giants Live, we get $30,000 for Giants Live. So I'd like to make the equivalent, but do it in £30,000 sterling, which, maybe $40,000, whatever, for first prize. Because we want to give it back. We want to give back to the athletes, because they're just, I talked about Trey, you got Mitchell Hooper coming through, Alexi, all these great athletes, and if they would do us the privilege of competing in our show and coming to our small town up in the Highlands, we want to reward them with something, hopefully that it's the right value for them. I don't want to do it for, give the guys $1,000 or something. I want to do it on a big scale, and I've not actually talked about that before. So that's where my hopes and my dreams are, and I think that's something that we can really do, and give back to the strength community, because I think it would be. I'm not just saying it. I know I am biased, but up here, the scenery, the community, it's so beautiful. The people are so amazing, and for us to be able to, I just imagine, I've got this image in my head, like we've got like 4,000 people in the town. Imagine if like Big Brian Shaw came across and little Dorothy from down the road sees Brian walking past her when she's out getting her shopping. She'd be like, oh, you're a big boy. I don't know.
It's always that interesting thing, because I think it might have been that Brian, the Born Again Stronger documentary. They said that like strongmen always wear their success on them. So the bigger you are, you're like, oh, that he must have done something because we wear our success on us, right? So like compared to like a football player or a tennis player, right? It's a little different, but you just see not only a monster, but you see like, what does he do? He must do something special.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. That's to be confirmed. If we can, we've got a couple of meetings coming up. That's all I'll say about maybe starting something cool.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting. But you touch upon it a little bit throughout the talk. But when everything's all said and done, what are you looking to achieve in the sport of strongman, in business, and in life?
Jeez, that's a deep question, man. How much time have I got? Jesus. So I'll keep it short. Strongman. My goal is to win World's Strongest Man. That's it. That's why what I do. That's why I put my body through that. Being on the podium with Tom, that would be. I'd be super emotional. That's my hopes and dreams. If I could keep going until my younger brother Harry comes on. That would be awesome. I'd love to do like a show with Harry, and I don't know
how old is he?
Harry is 26. He'll be 27 next month.
Right. He's getting close to his prime, but he still has plenty of years that he can put under his belt. Yeah.
So he's a big lad. He's like 6'5". He's really filling out now. I was just training with him there today, so he's got that kind of that want for it now, which is awesome to see. In terms of the business aspect, again, it's just to be massive, man. It's I've got, I'd love for us, the business, to be able to build like a facility up here in Invergordon in the town. So it's everything under. I don't know if you've been to the Rogue HQ.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's awesome.
So it's such a I mean, I would love it to be on that scale, but I'm thinking let's make it a little bit smaller to start off. But they've got the gym there, they've got the shop, then they've got the kind of stores at the back, offices, etc. So again, we're looking at doing something in the town here. There's a couple of bits of land available, but again, it's just trying to get that kind of ideas out onto paper. So we've now got one of my good friends that I've known since 8 years old. He's come on working for the business. He's like a business manager. He's quite well versed in that. So we have chats, and then he kind of gets that stuff from my head and puts it onto paper. So if we could do that, I think that would be amazing for the Highlands and north of Scotland, because we'd have something that, I say a gym, I wanted to do like strongman, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit, Highland Games, anything sports, anything fitness, I wanted to encompass in that gym, because we don't have much like that up here. And if Tom and I could create that, I think that's a huge thing. Imagine having a 6-year-old kid in there doing Olympic lifting, and then 10 years, 20 years, or 15 years later than the Olympics. I think that would be absolutely insane. So, the legacy that we talk about, it's not just for Tom and I, it's to see those kids, those 6-year-olds and around here, and give them some hope. And then in life, I just want to be happy, man. That's something that I really kind of I strive to do every day. So I touched on it earlier on about, you know, the mental health side of things for me, you know. So I can say I got this little imaginary toolbox around with me. If something gets a little bit tough, I know what to do. You know, very fortunate we've got our family. You know, Dad's still with us. We've got 4 amazing siblings, amazing wife, friends. You know, so I know how to be happy, and it's just reminding myself sometimes on how to do that. So I hope, yeah, just to be happy in life, and just kind of, when I'm happy, everything else is very easy. And I think that's probably the same with a lot of people. And one of the times when I'm most happy is when I'm competing in front of a big crowd in a strongman competition. So fingers crossed, touch wood, there's a few years left and the old body yet.
Yeah, just pick up some tips from Mark Felix and you'll be another 10 years. But I love the part, of course, enriching the community. And it's always interesting how profound effect strongman has in different areas. Like, for instance, World's Strongest Man back in the mid 2000s was in Zambia. And of course, I think it was a year, I'm not sure if Phil Pfister won or you at least competed or did well. But this past OSG that I went to for 105 kilo, there were 2 competitors from Zambia competing. So just after, let's say 15, 16 years, that already had a profound effect on the local population. So it's interesting not only to see it incrementally for a few years, but I have to see after a couple decades how that changes. So I'm looking forward to what you guys do up there, and hopefully I can come over and visit. My fiance doesn't bothers me about going up to Scotland because she loves Outlander. She loves Jamie Fraser, so she wants to go find Jamie out there. So maybe
man. Outlander was literally filmed like an hour away from us. So
really?
Yeah. So please, come up, man. Anytime. I'd love to have you.
But I wanted to go quickly on your YouTube channel. So there's the Stoltman brothers, there's more Stoltmans, there's Cushy Stoltman page for a little more behind the scenes. What's your favorite video to date? That is there a video that you just watch over and over that because you just love? I know usually most if you want to be go ahead, Luke.
So I really like Simon, the media kind of manager here. Simon did a really good job at Britain's Strongest Man this year. I mean, it was very frustrating. My leg just started cramping and spasming, and it was awful. But the production quality of that video, I really enjoy watching. And one that I often watch is, we actually did a mini mental health documentary when people went into the ice. And that was really powerful for me. You know, we were there. It was actually during lockdown, and because it was under media, we had some exemptions. So I think we had, I can't remember how many people it was, 8 people maybe, and a lot of it was their first time in, like, literally ice. We had to break the ice and make holes for them to go into. And after we did some interviews with people, and they really opened up about their battles with mental health, their struggles, you know, what makes them kind of tick and stuff. And for me, that was one of the best videos that I've been part of, because it was something more, if that makes sense. You know, it's like, our training is awesome. I love those type of videos. It's so cool to watch. The competitions are awesome. But when we do something that means a little bit more, that's what I get really passionate about. And you know, I've mentioned it a few times, the mental health aspect, I think, is very important. And that's something that, you know, obviously Tom with autism awareness as well, it's a big thing for Tom. So if we can do a few more videos, we've actually just had a few meetings over the last month or so, talking about the direction of the channels. And I think that's something that we want to really focus on, is those kind of, that epic style kind of cinematic videos. And we're very, very privileged to be filming with some amazing people, and getting to, you know, get tips from amazing people and very successful people on YouTube, you know. So I just love it, man. It's just fun for me, you know, doing these type of videos.
And your film guys are pretty strong too. I saw one of them load a 210 stone, so that's a pretty strong filmer.
Ridiculous. He's so Jordan's a beast, man. He's a vegan as well. He doesn't eat any meat. So but he's doing the documentary. The Malden brothers, they're doing the documentary. They've been filming almost 3 years with us now. So they've got some amazing footage, man. It's like, I'm so excited to get this documentary out. They're talking about like they wanting it to win like BAFTA awards and like awards for it, because it kind of touches on a lot of things, like autism, mental health, all this stuff, and it's just, they've just been, filming from, I guess, the kind of start of, before Tom came second at Worlds,
Wow.
so it's pretty cool. So hopefully, when it comes out, all you guys, you can watch it, come over to Scotland for the premiere or wherever it is we go, and it should be a good watch, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. But of course, make sure to follow and subscribe to all the Stoltman pages. That's most of my questions today. So thank you for coming on, Luke. Don't forget Luke on Instagram. You can also check out his training on their new training app, partnering up with Dan Hipkiss. So of course, if you want to see all their trainings, make sure you check that out. And then lately, a lot of my guests have kind of been playing off each other. So for instance, Mitchell Hooper was saying that you mentioned you in the podcast, saying you're one of the most classiest dudes around. So I got to have the classiest dude on the podcast. But who should be the next guest? Any suggestions on my next guest, Mr. Luke?
Who would I like to see? Oh, geez. I think I've seen enough of Tom. I mean, he'd be a great guest. Tom's a great guy. Yeah, that's awfully nice of Mitchell to say. Thank you, Mitch. You're too kind as always. Geez, I don't know who else. Have you spoke to Alexi before?
Not yet. I know he's of course really busy, of course, doing everything internally within his course country at war. So maybe when things kind of calm down, I'll get Alexi. I'm not sure of how the language barrier would work, but of course I can work around it. Of course, myself, even being I was originally born in Italy, so of course I always, of course, I've always had challenges in terms of language barriers.
Alexi would be cool.
Alexi, all right, I'm gonna shoot for that. But again, thank you for coming on, and then today let's end the show with one piece of wisdom. So Luke, you have one piece of wisdom that you want to spread to the listeners?
I think we touched on it a little bit. What I want in my life, and what I want for everyone watching this, anyone that supports us, is to be happy, to try and be happy as much as you can. Enjoy what you're doing. If you aren't happy doing what you're doing just now, do something about it, and that could really change your life. And a happy life is a life well spent.
That's awesome. Make sure you guys stay strong. Thank you, Luke.